You're listening to the Leaping Choya podcast recorded in the Wrong Mountain Yurt in the Sonoran Desert.
I am falling away from this world. I am falling away from this world.
Hello, this is going to be episode 73 of Leaping Choya podcast. Yeah. I don't know, what's going on? Lost another chicken. Died. Not sure why. It was one of the new ones.
Yeah.
Rumor is I introduced the new ones to the flock a couple weeks prior, and the neighbor says that can stress them out and they can die. So it was one of the young ones, just found it dead. Then I throw them into the desert, and the next day they're gone. I actually saw
Was it the one with the comb? Which one was it?
It was the gray one, the non-Polish.
Oh, the
one
non-Polish.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then the buzzards eat it. I actually can see the buzzards eating it. We had a mountain lion kill a deer.
A pregnant deer.
And partially eat a deer pregnant with 2 babies right outside the door of our nearest neighbor.
Yeah.
And leave the carcass there. That really spooked the neighbors, right?
Yeah.
And the neighbors called Game and Fish, and Game and Fish said they would not go kill the mountain lion because the mountain lion was just doing what it's supposed to do. So that was encouraging. We have a lot of Colorado river toads in our yard. Sonoran
Are they?
toads.
Oh, they are. Sonoran toads?
Yeah, I think there's multiple names for them, but Sonoran desert toad maybe, or Colorado. I think they're Colorado river toads.
Yeah.
But they're the ones with the psychedelic buboes on their back.
Oh, I thought those were supposed to be like poisonous.
I mean,
They're not?
yeah, that's why they have it on their back, is it's poisonous if you eat a lot of it.
Oh.
But it's used as a psychedelic, and yeah, if you do a little of it. And there was a big article in the New York Times today about how that's decimating the species, is people grabbing those things to get psychedelic sauce off their back. It's just really sad. Because we usually have 1 or 2 in the yard every year, and they're just fantastic.
They're really fun.
Fantastic.
They're really
animals.
loud.
So stop killing Sonoran desert toads for psychedelics. It's ridiculous. If you can't figure that stuff out on your own, you don't need to kill a frog to do it. Give me a break.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah, that's a good wildlife update.
On the farm, our
Yeah.
water collection tanks are done, and the monsoons are starting.
Yes. Next week I saw should be coming.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's gonna get a bit cooler and
Oh, great.
get to test them out.
Great. So yeah, that's life on the farm.
Yeah.
And I've had some heavy windstorms lately.
Oh yeah.
Knocked the carpet up, knocked the windows out, the screens. Vicious stuff. Vicious winds.
Our son saw a rainbow. I feel like maybe for the first time yesterday. He
Oh,
was very
yeah.
excited
There's a
about
rainbow
it.
over the
Was it
mountain.
his first? It probably wasn't his first, but I feel like it's sort of the first that he's been like
Yeah, he was psyched
really
about
cognizant of it.
it. Yeah.
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 Cool.
Alrighty. So we're starting a whole new section today, I believe.
Do you know what it's called?
No, I don't.
The Interplay.
The Interplay. Cool.
Interplay. It's kind of a cool word.
Cool.
Word. Interplay.
Interplay.
Huh.
Yeah, so that's the third component in his little sextet of...
There's 6?
I believe there are.
I didn't know that.
Do you have them written down, what they are?
I just look at the contents. I can read them.
Yeah, what are they?
1, prospect. 2, the resonating. 3, the interplay. 4, the leap. 5, the grounding. 6, the future ones. and that's really short. And then 7, the last god, also short. 8, bang.
Huh. Okay. Great. So here we are on the Interplay. And
I'm excited for a new section. To be honest, I'm like excited for it.
because you've read it, or are you just excited to
No, I'm
move
just
on?
excited. Yeah.
It is exciting. Yeah, it is exciting.
I mean, it was very important going on about science, but like,
Oh my God, you used the phrase "going on." You said it was going on.
no, I
Did
don't
you find
know.
it tedious?
No, I didn't. Honestly, I think the only reason is because we haven't done any new episodes, so I've been listening to the same episodes on repeat. So I'm just excited for a new section for that reason.
Oh yeah, great. Okay.
Because I know everyone else has been listening to our podcast
Yeah,
as
exactly.
in time as I am.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's read.
Okay. 81. Interplay. The confrontation with the necessity of the other beginning out of the originary posing of the first beginning. The guiding disposition. Pleasure in the interrogative and reciprocal surpassing of the beginnings. In this regard, everything concerning the distinction between the guiding question and the basic question, answer to the guiding question and proper unfolding of that question, transition to the basic question, being and time. All the lecture courses on the history of philosophy, the decision with regard to all ontology.
Yeah, so do you remember what the guiding question, the basic
No, I
question?
have to like look back.
I don't either at all. That's not really my
I think I marked one of
bag
them.
is remembering things like that.
The guiding question is the question of the being of beings.
The guiding question is the question of the being of beings. Great. And what's the basic question?
I don't have that one. I'm embarrassed to say.
Okay, great.
I'll just kind of keep looking.
Well, he says transition to the basic question, being and time, as if being and time is kind of, I don't know, where one finds the basic question. Well, let's keep looking, maybe.
Got it. Basic question. How does being essentially occur?
All right. Oh, wow. Okay, great. So the interplay, right? The confrontation with the necessity of the other beginning out of the originary posing of the first beginning. So apparently the interplay is this confrontation with the necessity of the other beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And that other beginning emerges out of the originary posing of the first beginning. The guiding disposition is going to be pleasure in the interrogative and reciprocal surpassing of the beginnings. And that means passing the first beginning and the other beginning. And just to reiterate, the first beginning is the metaphysics as outlined by the Greeks, and the other beginning is the initiation of a new era of thinking that Heidegger himself is instigating. In this regard, everything concerning the distinction between the guiding question, which is what is the essence, how does bang essentially occur? No, the guiding question is what is the being of being?
Yeah.
And the basic question is how does bang essentially occur? So it looks like maybe the interplay is everything concerning the distinction between the question of the being of being and the question of how bang essentially occurs. Answer to the guiding question and proper unfolding of that question, transition to the basic question.
I mean, in a way, the guiding question is just also, well, he says here, and back in the section I was looking at, that with the guiding question, its most general form was impressed on it by Aristotle what are beings? So maybe the being of beings or what are beings, I think
Yeah.
either. So just the question of being, essentially.
Yes, that's right.
And then the basic question
I mean, it seems to me one could
is the
almost say
question
that
of bang.
that's right. The guiding question is the question of being. The basic question is the question of bang.
Yeah.
And I think when he says being and time here, seems like he's implying that being and time is kind of, well, it's a book, but it's also maybe a book in which that basic question is first posed. Bang is not a word used in being and time, but being and time sets up a lot of the initial templates and thought patterns and inquiries that give rise to bang as described in this book. All the lecture courses on the history of philosophy, the decision with regard to all ontology. It's almost seemed like these are notes he's making for himself about what's going to be in this section.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's keep reading.
Yeah. 82. Interplay.
Oh, you know what I was thinking?
Huh.
I thought it might be nice to know.
The German word.
Yeah, what's the German word for this? Right?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah.
So, interestingly enough, the German word is Zuspiel. Zuspiel. Now, Spiel means play. Zuspiel could probably be thought of as play to, or play, and it actually, interestingly enough, the
What do you mean by play to? Sorry.
Oh, so you would
Play as well, or
no play to. I'll tell you. You'll hear what I mean right here. The translation of this is pretty unequivocal. It means to pass, as in sports, like pass the ball to someone. So play to it, play the ball over to your teammate. So Zuspiel translates to passing in a sports context. Specifically refers to act of passing a ball. The term can also figuratively mean passing something surreptitiously or leaking information. It means to pass to. The verb zuspielen means to pass to. So I don't know where the heck they got interplay, other than I guess the idea is playing between things, passing the ball to someone, the interplay in sports. But I don't know. It seems like a little more like what really he's saying is the Zuspiel is sort of a passing on to the other beginning.
Oh yeah. Right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll stick with interplay, but just keep that definition in mind. So go ahead.
82. Interplay is of a historical essence and builds the first bridge of the transition, a bridge which, however, thrusts out toward a shore that must first be decided. Yet the interplay with the history of the thinking of the first beginning is not historiological, additional, or pre-given material for a new system. Instead, it is itself the essential transformative preparation of the other beginning. Therefore, we must first direct our historical meditation, perhaps still more inconspicuously and decisively, only to the thinkers belonging to the history of the first beginning, so that through the interrogative dialogue with their way of questioning, we might unexpectedly plant a questioning that will someday find itself explicitly rooted in another beginning. But this historical meditation as the interplay of the beginnings, which are grounded in themselves and which pertain in each case differently to the abyss, already arises in a transitional way out of the other beginning. To grasp this already requires the leap, and therefore such meditation is all too readily subject to the misinterpretation that finds there merely historiological considerations regarding works of thought chosen by arbitrary predilection. This is all the more so since the external form of these historical meditations, lectures on the historiology of philosophy, is in no way different from what subsequent scholarship would still present as a finished history of philosophy. Should I finish this section?
Yeah, I mean, I think that passage is kind of clear. I mean, it's a lot of words for, we need to meditate on the first beginning and relate to those thinkers and dive into their thought, not as the story of them or what the story of what they've become for us, but as an historical meditation. Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty clear. Right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so go on.
Historical meditations can be taken even usefully simply as historiological and rectifiable considerations, and perhaps even as discoveries, without any intimation of history breaking through in them, i.e. of the history which is the one of being itself and which bears the decision of all decisions. It is on the ground of the thinking of being in its historicality that historical meditations can be carried out. But what if the essence of thinking has been lost to us and logic has been predestined to commandeer thinking? Even though logic itself is indeed merely a vestige of the powerlessness of thinking, i.e. of unsupported and unprotected questioning in the abyss of the truth of being. And what if thinking retains validity only as the faultless drawing of conclusions within the correct representation of objects, i.e. as the avoidance of that questioning?
Yeah, there's a lot to go through there. I'm going to go back and look at the paragraph that I said was just so obvious.
Great. I mean, something I feel like is that he's saying like that there's stuff in the first beginning if you, in a way, like you were saying, think about it historically. Like there's stuff to learn from it. There's stuff to glean from it, which is like a generous interpretation.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
And like above, he used the word pleasure in the interrogative. Like it just, he's like so nice about it as opposed to being like, these people have like really fucked us up. He's like,
Yes.
see what they're passing to us.
Yes. No, that's absolutely right. That's nice to recognize his generosity that way. Interplay is of a historical essence and builds the first bridge of the transition. So this Zuspiel, this passing to, or this passing between, this playing between.
So, sorry, that is the idea perhaps that it's the passing from the first beginning to the other beginning?
I think so, yeah, I think so. I think it's like, in a way like...
passing the ball.
Yeah, passing the ball from the first beginning to the other beginning. Here he uses a bridge metaphor, but in a sense he's saying before you pass the ball or build a bridge, you got to know who you're passing it to or where you're building the bridge to.
Right.
And of course it has an historical essence because the first beginning and the other beginning are separated by time. Yet the interplay with the history of the thinking of the first beginning is not historiological, additional, or pre-given material for a new system. So we're not gonna this passage, this passing over, this passing to that we're trying to initiate is not going to be about thinking about the first beginning in order to historiologically or develop some new system. Instead, it is itself. So the interplay is itself the essential transformative preparation of the other beginning. So the interplay is not building a system. The interplay is the transformative preparation of the other beginning. Therefore, we must direct our historical meditation. So we're going to historically meditate, perhaps still more inconspicuously and decisively, only to the thinkers belonging to the history of the first beginning. So we must direct our attention, our meditation, right onto them. So the original thinkers, not the interpretations we've received about them. And of course, this is quite easy for someone who read ancient Greek to say, only to the thinkers belonging to the sufferers, so that through the interrogative dialogue with their way of questioning, so by understanding the way the Greeks asked questions, we might unexpectedly plant a questioning, so a new questioning, or our questioning will unexpectedly be planted, that will someday find itself explicitly rooted in another beginning. So really study their form of questioning in order to develop our questions, and the other beginning will develop out of that. So he's being very explicit about how we're going to develop that other beginning. But this historical meditation, which we are directing on these original thinkers, as the interplay of the beginnings, which are grounded in themselves and which pertain to the abyss. So this historical meditation is the interplay of the beginnings, the first beginning and the other beginning, which are grounded in themselves and pertain to the abyss, already arises in a transitional way out of the other beginning. So this interplay emerges from out of the other beginning, right? And to grasp this already requires the leap, because we must already have leapt into the other beginning to even understand how it might generate this interplay. And therefore, such meditation is all too readily subject to the misinterpretation that finds there merely historiological considerations regarding works of thought chosen by arbitrary predilection. Very confusing little, right? Do you have any idea what that means? Or are you going to leave that up to me?
You can do it.
And then, so this historical meditation is the interplay of two beginnings that are grounded in themselves, and it arises in a transitional way out of the other beginning. So, essentially, he's saying that the future, or the other beginning that's actually taking place now, it's not even future. The other beginning is now. It's taking place right now, right? And the interplay is arising out of it, because that's where we are, that's who we are, that's what's happening, that's what is, right? It's arising out of this, out of the other beginning, and because of that, right? Such meditation is all too readily subject to the misinterpretation that finds in that meditation merely historiological considerations regarding works of thought chosen by arbitrary predilection. Now, I think he's basically saying that because this interplay is arising out of the other beginning, we are likely to be led by historiological considerations, meaning, in a sense, where we run the risk of kind of living a story, living a pattern based on where we think we ought to go, or we think we are going, or we think what the system should be. And we need to be cautious about not doing that. Now, regarding works of thought chosen by arbitrary predilection, I don't know what that means. Let's keep going. This is all the more so since the external form of these historical meditations, lectures on the historiology of philosophy, the story of philosophy, the external form of these historical meditations is in no way different from what subsequent scholarship would still present as a finished history of philosophy. So the way these meditations will start appearing, which is as the story of philosophy, it will be very similar to what scholars would present as a finished history of philosophy, which I think is essentially that, in a sense, the history of philosophy is never finished. The story of philosophy is never set. The historiology of philosophy is always changing as we discover more and reinterpret the past with new thoughts. And I think he's saying that we just need to be careful about not letting this whole thing unfold as a story, but it must be rather as an historical meditation. And again, he goes back to that phrase, historical meditations can be taken simply as historiological and rectifiable considerations, and perhaps even as discoveries without any intimation of history breaking through in them, i.e. of the history which is the one of Bang itself and which bears this. So, he's saying here, historical meditations can just become stories about what philosophy has been. And in those stories, no actual history breaks through. The kind of history where that is Bang itself, and that gives us the decisions of all decisions, that really gets us to the basic questions of what we're choosing, what these decisions are, right? It is on the ground of the thinking of Bang and its historicality that historical meditations can be carried out. So historical meditations must avoid these finished histories, must avoid these historiologies, must avoid these rectifiable considerations, this empty history, and it must ground itself in the thinking of Bang. But what if the essence of thinking has been lost to us? But what if we... Okay, now this is where... But what if we kind of can't think anymore, as Heidegger defines thinking? So he says, but what if the essence of thinking has been lost to us and logic has been predestined, meaning initially set up, to commandeer thinking, to take over thinking, even though logic itself is indeed merely a vestige of the powerlessness of thinking, i.e. of unsupported and unprotected questioning in the abyss of the truth of being. So here he makes a very interesting claim about logic. Logic is simply a vestige of the powerlessness of thinking. Thinking, and he says, by the way, what I mean by thinking is unsupported and unprotected questioning in the abyss of the truth of being. So that kind of thinking unsupported and unprotected questioning in the abyss of the truth of being, is what real thinking is. But logic is powerlessness of thinking that can't do that, can't participate in unsupported and unprotected questioning in the abyss of the truth of being. And what if thinking retains validity?
Wait, sorry. Is the unsupported and unprotected questioning in the abyss of the truth of being, is that
That's, I would call, powerful thinking.
powerful thinking?
Non-logical thinking.
Okay.
Thinking without logic.
Uh-huh.
And logic is thought that is powerless. Thought that is supported.
Yeah.
Thought that is protected.
Yeah.
Thought that is not questioning.
Yeah.
Thought that is not engaged with the abyss of the truth of being.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just logic.
Yeah.
And then he says, and what if thinking retains validity? So again, this would be thinking that is saturated by logic, or in a sense neutered and disempowered by logic. What if thinking retains validity only as the faultless drawing of conclusions within the correct representation of objects, i.e. as the avoidance of that unsupported and unprotected questioning in the abyss of the truth of being?
Mm-hmm.
So he puts forth a very juicy dichotomy here between thought and logic. And he makes a very strong claim about what logic is vis-a-vis thought, what thought is without logic, even just presenting the idea that there is thought without logic. Certainly in the 1930s, in the heydays of analytic philosophy and logic, the days of Russell and Wittgenstein and Frege and all these people, to say that logic is a vestige of the powerlessness of thinking really sets Heidegger apart from those people. What do you have anything to say about that passage?
I mean, it definitely seems like there are links to anxiety, but I don't want to be like, I don't know, beating a dead horse about it.
You're not beating a dead horse. Your horse is very much alive, and you beat it to keep it in line. I don't know what the metaphor is. What? Tell me.
I mean, I think like, I feel like intrusive thoughts are all based in this kind of logic, or it's sort of their logical causation based correct representations of objects.
Intrusive thoughts are based in that? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
I feel like they're very logical, which is...
Intrusive thoughts are logical.
Or they play a logical game.
Oh, really? Tell me more. How?
Well, I guess, like... What's a classic one?
You mean in the way they're very kind of if-then and causative and very like
but also it's like
it's
like, well, what's the meaning of life? Well, you can't prove what the meaning of life is. Like it's like it's sort of a logic game. That's like, or there's a knife on the counter. You can't prove you're not going to do something bad with that.
Yeah.
So it just kind of is like the psychosis
so in a
of
way,
logic, like logic pretending like it can do anything. Again, the infinite possibilities that anything is possible because you can say anything, or you can think anything,
and you can't disprove possibilities.
And you can't disprove. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So there's just something. So if you were to like rethink about logic and thinking, logic as actually the powerlessness of thinking, And intrusive thoughts like, wait, no, I'm powerful. I'm powerful.
Yeah.
But actually,
Well,
in the thinking, in its logical attempts, it's proving its powerlessness.
yeah. And in a way, it's like, and I mean, it's, you use the phrase intrusive thought, and then you try to think your way out of that thought.
Mm-hmm.
But that thought is protected by the limitations of logic.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's taking advantage of the limitations of logic, and it's rendering your thinking powerless, because you can't think your way out
Right.
of the logical possibilities
Yeah.
that are present in the intrusive thought. In a sense, maybe even the intrusive thoughts emerge in those logical opportunities for the disempowerment of thought. So where thought reaches a powerless, or thought sort of reaches its limit, an intrusive thought pops up under the guise of logic, and logic is its defense. Logic is what makes it scary, and you're freaked out because you can't defy its logic. It seems to have logic on its side.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And that's scary because logic is obviously all powerful. Mm-hmm. Like you don't defy logic, then you're just like a clown. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. So logic is its superpower. Mm-hmm. And it uses that superpower to hurt you, and it disempowers your thought, and your thinking is helpless in the face of this logic. And the thing is, I would say, in what way are these intrusive thoughts logic? And I think what you're saying is, it's not that the intrusive thought is logic, it's that the intrusive thought's ability to sustain any kind of possible verity, like possible truth, that it's possibly true, its ability to do that is contingent on the limitations of logic. And basically it basically makes a claim that you logically can't disprove.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm going to kind of go out on I think this is kind of what Kant was calling the antinomies of reason. And I think we should look at this really because I think there's something about this that has to do with logic. The antinomies of reason, as outlined by Immanuel Kant in his Critique of Pure Reason, are pairs of contradictory propositions that arise when human reason attempts to speculate beyond the limits of possible experience, venturing into metaphysical questions about the nature of reality. These antinomies emerge because reason seeks to apply concepts suited for empirical knowledge to questions about the infinite or unconditioned, leading to irresolvable conflicts. So I would say that, so for instance, these antinomies that Kant talks about they are very metaphysical. They're sort of on the big topics. So for instance, one antinomy is the world has a beginning in time. So an antinomy is essentially an irresolvable conflict between a thesis and an antithesis, where you're unable, simply because of the structure of your mind, to solve the the problem. So they're very interesting. So listen, here. So it's a thesis and an antithesis, neither of which human reason, has the ability to decide between. Can't decide between them.
Yeah.
So the first one is the world has a beginning in time and is limited in space. And the other one, the antithesis, is the world has no beginning in time and no limits in space. It is infinite in both respects. So essentially the world is finite or the world is infinite. And Kant argues both are problematic because they assume the world is a thing in itself. Since the world as we know it is a phenomenon shaped by our perception, questions about its ultimate finitude or infinitude are unanswerable. Second one, the thesis is everything in the world is composed of simple, indivisible parts, such as atoms. Nothing, and the antithesis is nothing in the world is simple. Everything is infinitely divisible. Kant resolves this by noting that matter is subject to our spatial and temporal intuitions, which allows for infinite divisibility in thought. However, whether matter is ultimately simple or infinitely divisible in itself is beyond our knowledge. The third one is there is freedom.
Well, yeah. And also in that case, it's like there are things that like you can touch, but then there are like concepts you can have about things you can touch. And how do you decide which is provable?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The third one is there is freedom in the world. Second one, there is no freedom. Right?
Yeah.
Kant distinguishes between the phenomenal realm and the noumenal realm. The phenomenal realm is where causality governs appearance, and the noumenal realm is the things in themselves. Freedom may exist in the noumenal realm as the basis for moral agency, while causality governs the phenomenal world, allowing both to coexist without contradiction. And finally, the existence of a necessary being. There exists a necessary being, God, as the cause of the world. Antithesis, there is no necessary being. Everything in the world is contingent. Kant argues that the concept of a necessary being transcends our capacity for knowledge. So, I almost feel like what you're talking about is the antinomies of anxiety.
Yeah.
The anxieties of reason, really.
Yeah, right.
Because when you say, you're stricken with and haunted by this thought that knife, right, could be used for ill, and you can't disprove that it couldn't be or won't be, which is really, we've talked a little about this, that this is modal logic.
Yeah.
You can't really come up with solid reasons that the possibility of that knife being used for ill is not a necessity of that knife. You can't transit between possible worlds and figure out why some worlds are necessary and some worlds are not necessary. And that is indeed a logical matter. And it renders your thought powerless, as you say, and that's really an interesting discovery.
Yeah.
So for me, say something.
No, go ahead.
I mean, for me, it really pivots in an exciting way to kind of what I've been writing in my book in the last few weeks about logic and identity, and the way logic is a system of thoughts and rules and propositions and properties of identity and its laws, and that the word Heidegger uses is commandeers our thinking, takes it over, controls it. It kind of becomes a game, like a game world, like a massive player. Where was that massive player game universe or something. There's some gaming phrase for large models where a lot of people are playing, and logic kind of becomes that and takes our thought over, and thought is incapable of existing outside logic, feeling it has any validity outside logic, any grounding, any basis without logic. And of course, logic enables. What's kind of fascinating to me is the way that, like with your anxiety example, is logic provides conduits for your thought to go places that you don't even want your thought to go, but it kind of takes your thought away. And it takes your thought over, and it starts thinking for you and offering you certain opportunities of thought that it's decided are the only ones you have. And so you feel kind of, again, your thought is disempowered in the presence of logic. So I don't know. It's good stuff.
Yeah. I want to. Yeah, I think. Well, and then I also think, like, when your thought goes on that train or that pathway, I feel like it comes back to a lot of the other things of identity you've talked about, which is often then, at least for me, it's about projecting or adopting. So I'm adopting other people's thoughts. I'm thinking of storylines. I'm
Yes.
just kind of hooking into scripts.
Yes.
And like he says at the end, it's the avoidance of questioning.
Yeah.
So it's in a way just a lazy thing to do, is you're just
Yeah.
like, oh, well, I'll just use these other thoughts, as opposed to actually questioning.
Yeah.
But I kind of didn't fully follow what you meant about the modal and identity. I was still thinking a bit about the anxiety. But the one last thing I want to say is I think that intrusive thoughts, and we've said this about, like, our kind of a fear of liberalism having power. I think it's also like a fear of thought, or a fear of logic having power, even though it's powerless. So it's like the fear that logic could have power.
Well, logic does have power.
Yeah.
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 So I think it's the fear of logic's power.
Yeah. And
you can only be afraid in the presence of logic if you feel that logic is more powerful than you.
Yes.
If your thought, thought constitution, your thought disposition, your thought substance, in a sense, if the esteem of your thought and the presence of your thought is imbued with enough sense of power that logic doesn't seem to overpower you, then you're not going to be afraid of logic.
That's right.
But I think that liberalism definitely fosters a fear of logic, that logic needs to be scary because logic takes precedence. Now, I think that the causal relationship that I am investigating in terms of identity, and I'm going to try to get back to modal logic here because you kind of asked about that, is that there is a course of psychological, I hate to use that word, but there's a course of psychological development or psychological production lining that flows in the following way, that in the liberal order, young people, children, and then into adolescence and then into adulthood, are trained in the adoption of identities in various in many different ways, and not just like a racial or a gender or a religious identity, in very social ways, in very psychological ways, in the way we map our mind, in the way we view what people are, in the way we view what nature is, in the way we view what our psychology is. All these millions and millions of ways in which our formation as people is the unfolding of identities and of identificational practices. So that's a very real world developmental event, ongoing event that we all experience. That makes us a perfect breeding ground for logic. Because I've said just recently, logic is applied identity. Identity is the first law of logic. The other two laws of logic are just there to kind of say, don't break the law of identity. And identity and its properties formulate all the different postulates and formulas of logic. And so by developing as identitarian beings, we then provide access to logic to take hold of us
Yeah.
and take us over.
Yeah.
So it's not that logic comes first, it's that our development as identitarian beings creates an opportunity for logic to move in and creates an opportunity for logic to commandeer us and our thought. And that's when we are pretty much taken over and our thought becomes powerless. And then once that happens, then anyone can use logic.
Right.
And by using logic, it doesn't just mean insisting on the precedence of logic or making logical arguments, or it actually means or setting up institutions built on logic. And when I say logic, what I mean is what's right and correct and verifiably true. It also means that you are obligated to consider that as epistemologically, politically, socially, psychologically predominant. And you don't defy
True
it.
and valid.
True and
needs to be
valid and correct.
considered and important.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you don't go away from it
Yeah.
because that renders you either insane or an apostate or reckless or amoral, and you need to be corrected, canceled, or killed.
And that ties actually right into the last sentence, which we haven't really talked about yet, which is, I'm not quite sure how it reads, but it's kind of interesting to read it in this way, which is, and what if thinking retains validity only as the faultless drawing of conclusions within the correct representation of objects? So just the correct representation of objects, which is a phrase we've heard a lot, but that just sort of moral correctness in the
that's right.
representation.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he says, what if thinking retains validity only as the faultless drawing of conclusions within the correct representation of objects? I'm not sure that's even a what if. I mean, I'd like to answer you, Martin, and say thinking.
Well, that's the thing. I'm not sure how he's using what if.
Oh, I think he's saying, what if that's where we are?
Oh, yeah.
What if that's what's happened?
Yeah. So what is faultless drawing? So sort of like faultless is in like kind of like absolved, like not the fault.
Well, the faultless drawing of conclusions would mean that you're drawing conclusions, right? You're drawing conclusions that no one can find fault with because they've been done through the logical procedures that everyone has agreed upon as
truth.
Exactly, providing validity.
Yeah, right.
You're operating within the correct representation of objects. You're being correct. You're seeing things right.
Yeah.
And so your conclusions, the drawing of your conclusions is faultless. No one can find blame with them, and that's therefore you are thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think, man, I mean, yeah, it's like, I mean, I think this is a groundbreaking view of what anxiety is.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's talking about this. This is not a,
No, that's right.
this is not a way of looking at anxiety that anyone is discussing.
Yeah.
The relationship between logic, the disempowering of thought,
Yeah.
and anxiety is very, really powerful,
I agree.
really big, really present. And it's why we talk about the liberal order.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be really clear. Like, I mean, we are political sometimes when we're talking about, but we're talking about something so much bigger than just like contemporary politics.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the logic that disempowers thought and renders our life imbued with an ineradicable anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And logic, the word, a lot of people hear logic and they think, what? You mean like, you know, syllogisms and formulas of some symbols, you know? No. Logic are the rules of thought, the laws of thought, the valid engendering formula that all thought must follow in order to be considered thought. And that is the liberal order. Mm-hmm. That is liberalism. That's why the universities are entirely liberal, because the universities are the defenders of proper thought, i.e. of logic, of correct thought. And we all have to just think in the way that the universities tell us we need to think. We need to all think logically, which is now synonymous with liberally. We all need to think like good liberals, because that's logical thinking. And you then get a scent of why liberals find non-liberals so abhorrent, so deplorable, so savage, so evil, so mindless, so ignorant, because they don't even follow logic. Like, they're completely illogical. They don't even draw the right conclusions. Right? I mean, they're just like babbling madness, right?
Yeah.
And it is logic that is at the heart of all of this. The logic of the COVID response, right? The logic of liberal policies, the logic of the universities and the NGOs and the global order and the order of liberalism, and it's just all logic. And the reason liberalism has descended into I would say a revolting identitarian mess is due to its subservience to logic, because again, logic is applied identity.
Yeah.
So it's this whole feedback loop, this whole nexus of stuff about the way liberals run their lives, run their minds, give their everything over to logic, expect the whole world to remain logical, the whole world remain liberal, and the disgust they feel when you step out of that. Right? And there are definitely things that should be done according to logic. But I'm not even sure liberals are logical. That's the thing. Like logic, like liberal.
Well, they're.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean the thinking becomes
like what is logical is even up for debate. But liberals don't even think that that's up for debate, because liberal logic is the only logic there is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
a hornet's nest.
I guess so, yeah. And I mean, I think the other beginning that we've been reading about in this book for us is post-liberalism.
Yeah.
Post-liberal logic, post-logic, and the re-empowering of thought.
Yes. Yeah, that was a nice thing is sometimes I feel like thought, I mean, and I will also kind of trash on thought, but I feel like he's actually pointing out that it's, that thought's been trashed on. It hasn't, but it's not actually thought's fault. It's actually the way we're using thought as opposed, and we're not questioning.
Yeah.
So thought itself doesn't have to be bad.
Right. Right.
Or logical or illogical or whatever. It just it needs to be it needs to be reconsidered as something other than first beginning thought.
Yeah, and he says here what he calls thought is where is that section where he talks about the the unsupported and unprotected questioning in the abyss of the truth of being. I mean, how does that phrase make you feel?
Yeah,
do you like unsupported and unprotected questioning in the abyss of the truth of being, or does it make you feel anxious?
Yeah, well, at first I was like confused by that, but I think that I mean, thinking about it now, it doesn't make me feel anxious. Like, I mean, I think it makes sense. I think that the way you described it, this idea just that it's like sort of unprotected by logic, I guess,
right,
and unsupported by logic. And that's part of what the reference to the abyss and then finding the truth of being. So, but it's supported by, I mean, he says unsupported and unprotected, but it's also supported in some ways, I guess.
Yeah.
Or it's a new support or something. I don't. It's not totally unsupported.
Yeah.
This book, it's a pretty big book supporting it, you know.
Yeah. Right.
But I mean, maybe that's what's scary about it. Maybe that is why, like, the anxiety is like, well, but are you sure you can get into that? You know, I'm so safe over here, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I guess unsupported, unprotected, but also like exiled, excommunicated.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. Well,
and then I feel like all the thoughts become potential enemies. I mean, so like I guess there's a lot in there, potentially, in the abyss. That, you know, I guess, and then the question is, how do you
it's weird.
Try to take power back.
Yeah, right. And it makes me think of that kind of phenomena that we... You gonna say something?
No.
That we we started noting maybe like 10, 12, 14 years ago in New York City was... every time you like ran into someone, everybody was like dropping the same
virtue signals,
phrases. Yeah. Like everyone was always, it took them never more than 20, 30 seconds to make sure they dropped some kind of sign that they were a liberal and that they were scared or angry or concerned in certain ways that were very formulaic, and everyone was saying the same thing and dropping the same signals. And you know, I think that it was a crisis, a time of crisis for their minds, because I think they needed to, as Trump emerged, they needed to feel supported and protected. They were reconvening and reasserting their dedication to the logical order, the logical liberal order, by doing that, because something had kind of really despite all their efforts, this thing had emerged, right?
Yeah.
And they were feeling very unsupported and unprotected.
Yeah.
So they had to refine that protection and that support in each other, because they are not comfortable with unsupported and unprotected questioning,
Yeah.
because it's illogical, and they need to stay in that logic. Let me read this. Modal logic is a branch of formal logic that extends classical logic to include operators expressing modality. Concepts like necessity, possibility, obligation, permission, belief, or time. These operators allow reasoning about what must be true, what might be true, or what is true under certain conditions, beyond the simple truth or falsity of propositions in classical logic. So when we think of classical logic, we think of, in a kind of a way, in a sense, the establishment of eternal truths. What is true and what is false, always. Modal logic looks more at what must be true, what might be true, and what is true only under certain conditions. So it kind of expands the places in which truth is considered by thinking about things like belief, necessity, obligation, possibility, time. It really expands logic's domain into all kinds of different modalities, right? And so when I talk about, I mean, in a sense, it's just logical imperialism. It's taking logic even farther, out of the classic absolute metaphysical realms and into just like all thought, everything we think about, all possibility, all necessity, all contingency, all conditions, and really just tries to understand how logic can be applied to every circumstance, because in a sense, all the modalities of existence. And as logic expands its reach and its formula and its language into what must be, what might be, and what is only under certain conditions, it becomes even more powerful. And it's interesting to me too that it's all being carried out in an obscure symbolic language that no one understands other than the priests.
Well, and as it becomes more powerful, thinking and questioning becomes less powerful.
That's right. Yeah. Well, there are formulas for what you're questioning, and if you think outside those formulas, then you're just kind of babbling. But I think that the identitarian conduits of logic now branching into what must be, what might be, or what could be, it has an effect on the mind and on the thought and the disempowerment of thought that is vast and very discombobulating, I would say, and even more anxiety-inducing. So yeah.
So then, where do we find power?
Because I think hold on, one more thing. I think with the knife example, concretely, I think what you're thinking is really disempowered by, in the presence of the knife example, are the modalities of the knife. Must it be true that you will use the knife for ill means? Could it be true? Might it be true? Under what circumstances would it be true? Like all these modal logic questions, right, are overwhelming to begin with, be really complex, and C, in a certain sense, probably unanswerable. So logic enables the consideration of those modalities yet doesn't actually contain the tools to answer the questions it puts forward. And so if you believe that logic has any kind of credence, or there's a reason, or there's a good reason for these modalities to be understood in this way, logically per se, then you're kind of in a catch-22.
Yeah.
Right? You can't think your way out of them, but yet you can't think without them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You can't think with them, and you can't think without them.
Yeah.
You know? So that's where thought is at right now. Liberalism is causal in that, but liberalism is a vast number of things, but liberalism is also just a manifestation of that in the social and political realm, the psychological realm. But it's definitely related to that. It's linked to that. Liberalism is the tragedy of the modal logic. The tragedy we almost live under, the dynasty, the authority of modal logic, and the obscurity and the disempowering of us that modal logic implies.
So what is the...
And I want to say one more thing. Again,
Yeah.
I kind of mentioned in another episode, but the masters of modal logic. So I remember I mentioned them, Lewis, Plantinga, and the guy that starts with an S. All of them, every single one of them, comes from a hyper-religious background.
Yeah.
Which is very rare for philosophers, I would say.
Yeah.
But for that branch of philosophy, which is, in a sense, the branch of logical imperialism, and it is a primary branch. It is like, in a sense, I would say it is the foremost and highest branch. It has authority. It has status. All three of them come from a deeply religious background. They are deeply religious. Anyhow, go ahead.
Yes, that's really interesting. So then what are the things that we do to bring back power to thought and questioning and stuff like that?
Yeah. What do we do to bring it back? Saul Kripke is the third guy. What do we bring? Well, I think it really starts with. First of all, we're talking about the other beginning. We're talking about a long process. But I think that susceptibility to the applied identitarianism that logic is, that we generate in ourselves by perpetuating identitarian development, identitarian systems, identitarian thinking, identitarian politics, identitarian societies. We're kind of giving ourselves cancer. So we need to divorce ourselves. We need to reformulate. We need to re-begin. We need to find the other beginning that is the post-identitarian beginning. And we need to look microscopically at all the ways in which we have embedded identity into our daily existence, because that embedding is it's like the weakness through which identity, through which logic enters us and takes us over. So that's kind of, I would say, the general idea. And the first one is not being liberal. Looking beyond liberalism politically, looking beyond liberalism socially, looking beyond liberalism conversationally, artistically, intellectually, historically, academically, institutionally, conceptually, in terms of your reading list, in terms of your predilections, in terms of your assumptions, in terms of your signaling, in terms of your social media consumption, in terms of just your obsessions, in terms of your repetitions, in terms of the things you say to yourself, just in all these areas. At every moment, saying I reject that identitarian formula.
Right, refusal.
I refuse it. I refuse that because that is identitarianism. That is identity. That is liberalism. And I refuse it. I'm going to not that. It's that time of meditation. Not that.
Right.
And by doing that, what you're also doing is you're pushing logic away.
Yeah.
And you're disempowering logic, and you're empowering your thought.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like the other thing is, as we raise our children, hopefully in this other beginning, that's just a whole nother thing. So how can you raise children?
Yes.
And trying not to imbue them with all these
That's right.
moments and bits of liberalism.
That's right.
I think is a big challenge for.
That's right. And we had that conversation this morning, right? I think I called liberalism microdosing suicide.
Yeah.
Our hope is to raise children who are free of the disempowerment that liberalism imposes on thought.
Yeah.
To raise children who are independent and free thinking and not subject to the anxiety that comes from needing to always be supported and protected by the liberal logical order.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean, by the way, the last thing, that doesn't mean anarchists. That's not at all what we mean.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah, I just think that the process of figuring out what that is will be like one way to build
another beginning.
Another beginning. Yeah.
That's right. I agree. And so much of it is probably just how we talk about the world.
Yeah.
To them. Mm-hmm. What's going on, what things are, how we teach them to, I guess, identify without identity. Mm-hmm. I would almost, to be without identity. To leave machination and worldview behind and, in a sense, practice unsupported and unprotected thought. And here he says it, right? Practice unprotected and unsupported thought. I want to make sure that he says this here, but in the abyss of the truth of being. So we want to take them to the abyss in the truth of being. And you know, it would be harder to find a better definition of identity than anti-abyss.
And supported and protected thought.
That's right. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So we should talk more about how we raise our children.
Yeah.
That was like one of the original purposes of the podcast.
Absolutely.
Was to also discuss sort of child development and parenting and family in the other beginning.
Absolutely.
In the post-liberal. So, yeah. On that note, our 2.5-year-old is potty training himself.
Yeah.
Isn't that nice?
Totally. It's amazing. He
See that?
suddenly just got really excited about
you
like
go.
going to the potty.
That's
It's
what-
working.
That's what I was going to say. That's what happens when you raise them outside of liberalism. They just potty train themselves. All right. On that note, all right. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks for joining us for the Leaping Choya podcast. For more information, visit leapingchoya.com and be sure and follow us on socials. Until next time.